Oh, welcome to Conversations with Dr. Harriet and our special guest, Shalonda Washington. Hello, hello.
Hello, how are you?
Well, you know what? This is a first for me that your story was so compelling that I felt like that we needed a part two and an immediate part two. I didn't want to wait on this because I knew that people would be hanging on to hear the rest of this story. So we're going to actually just, first of all, introduce yourself. Let us know again who you are for those couple people who may not know you.
Yes, I'm Shalonda Washington. I am married to Jimmy Washington for 26 years, and I am a business owner of Reliable Permitting and BSS. And we're a permitting service, so we pull building permits and we assist contractors. One of our biggest clients is Lowe's, and so we also have a ministry, Washington Family Ministry, where we actually just don't do ministry, we be it. We're in the communities, we're in the trenches with them, we're in their lives. It's not just come and leave. And so God has truly blessed us in an area that it looks like a third world country in Immokalee, Florida, but I'm a native of Naples, Florida, but we do ministry in Immokalee.
And that's so amazing. I think we talked about before. I think it's just so amazing that Naples is such a rich area. So many people who are snowbirds and have these fabulous houses, and down the street is immigrants. And I just love that you all have taken on that ministry of ministering to the lost. And so I love that. So when we our story, we go to your story. The topic is hope for the unequally yoked, my marriage journey. So I know you started off. You were telling us how you and your fiance at the time were getting married, and you felt like maybe we need to get some counseling or something, some Christian counseling before we do this. You went to the pastor and you got saved during counseling, but your husband didn't. So you went ahead, you got married. There was a lot of infidelity, a lot of things going on that you struggled in your marriage. And so we're going to start with that breaking point of you were ready to give up, and but you were still trying to hang in there. And what happened that night that you said that your phone rang? Tell us about that.
Well, I was in my bed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and my phone called me. And I answered the phone, and it was my husband. And I can hear the full conversation he's having with another woman and things that are going on. And so at that point, I was just livid. I'm like, God, it don't take a rocket scientist. I need to get out of this. And isn't it in your word? If he do stuff like that, I can get out. Like that's one of the get me out of here. Why am I still here? And in that moment, I had to get real and raw with God. The pain was just too much to bear. And I said, God, you got to speak. You got to speak now. I'm out of here. I'm out. And that is when he asked me, what do you want? And I want out. And he asked me again. And finally, the third time, I was like, I want my family. I want my marriage. I want it together. I just don't want it like this. And he said, okay, let's do the work. And when I looked down at that Bible that I slammed on my lap, it was at 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 14. The unbelieving wife sanctifies the unbelieving husband. And there are wonderful things that happen to the children when we take on that perception. So now living out, how do I sanctify the unbeliever? That was the challenge. And that's where God had to give me strategy on how to accomplish that and what he meant by that. And one of the strategies, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that's so good. And so we want to know some strategies. What actually happened? There are women who are all over the world waiting to hear this. Yes. And also, I also appreciate you because I know you never shared this story before. And so I just appreciate your honesty and feeling vulnerable enough to come on air and share your story. That's the tough thing. A lot of us, have worn masks and didn't want people to know our true story. I mean, there are things in my marriage I still haven't shared. I think I'm very transparent, but I still haven't told it all. Maybe one day I'll have the courage to tell it all. But I just appreciate you. So tell us the first strategy. What happened when God actually gave you a
Yeah.
strategy?
Yes. Now I know, everyone, that it was a strategy. Back then, I just thought, like, what in the world? This is strange, right? So after hearing that conversation, my husband came home. He had been out. It was like 5 a.m. The Lord was telling me, prepare a table, convert the garage into a dining room, cook the food that you got out for Sunday dinner, and have it ready. I'm like, what? Okay. And I just said, okay, God, I did say I'm going to do this with you, but that's a little far there. But I did. I was obedient. I did it. And when my husband came in, I met him at the door. I was smelling good, looking good, had the music playing, sat down. I ate, but he sat there like this. I am not touching that food. But one of the reasons is what was so strategic about it was that my husband did not know at that time that I had heard the conversation. I knew exactly where he was. I knew exactly what he was doing. And although I'm telling y'all, God is amazing, although it hurt me to my core, I felt strength because now God has given me his word that is assuring me. From that moment, I then knew I can only trust God. I cannot depend on my husband. I could not depend on him. That was the first strategy. Another strategy the Lord gave me was, you know how when we're in church and our husbands are not, and so we start nagging them about going to church and why you don't go to church, and then we come home, we go to church, come back mad, but we don't been with the Lord, but we come back and we got a lot more hell in us.
Making him jealous, talking about the pastor. Pastor said this, pastor said that, not realizing that you're creating bitterness with your husband and the pastor. Pastor don't even know.
One of the things we forget is that the husband is already upset because you're in love with another man.
Exactly.
And you can't see this man.
Right.
And he can't either. I'm just saying, you in the spirit, got the spirit of God, but he can't. He cannot contain that.
Right.
And so one of the other strategies the Lord gave me is, before you leave your house, don't come and serve me and think you're doing anything for me, but you left your house tore up.
Wow, that's good.
You will make sure you make him, whether he drank it, whether he eat the food, whatever. You need to make sure everything is, and keep the house peaceful. And I had 5 kids, 5 of them. Wow. But I made sure that everything, if he wanted to stay in the bed on a Sunday, I wasn't walking around slamming stuff and doing all that.
Yeah.
He said, no, this is strategy. You make him feel you're going to honor his position, even if you can't honor the man. And that was one of the ways that he began to feel honored. Okay. And then the third strategy was, whatever you need emotionally, you must come to me first. You must come to me first. Because there were so many times I felt like I was alone, even though I'm married, sleeping with someone. I felt betrayed. I felt abandoned. I felt,
rejected.
Rejected.
Yeah.
I felt like he didn't see my worth. Like I said before, I never had low self-esteem. So the things I just felt like, the man's crazy, Lord. He got problems, he got issues, he just can't stop. So I just need to get out of this. So that's how I really felt. I never didn't take care of myself or keep myself up because I felt no. I always felt like, no, he's got the problem. So in this, that was the strategy. I had to depend on God, because we'll go to I heard Pastor Jake say this. He says, stop looking to the person who created the problem to fix the problem. They don't have the mentality to do it. So, but that's what we do when we hurt as women. We want to go back to the husband that has hurt us and say, you need to fix this, or I got a need, and they cannot comprehend. So I had to learn to depend on God. And I said, okay, God, I'm going to depend on you. And then I start crying. That vulnerability, that's what I want to say. We see God is even though he could see a situation going on, he's not going to get involved unless you invite him in it to get involved. How do I invite him? Through my prayer life and vulnerability, and be honest with him. I said, God, if he really knew me, God, if he really loved me, if he was supposed to love me like you love the church, he would know that I'm hurting. He would be able to feel me.
Right.
But I talked to the Lord. I leave it there. I went, and this is a true story. I went and I was getting ready to go to some clients. I had to stop by Walmart. I walked in Walmart. The minute I walked in was the most beautiful flowers. They were like neon color, pink, blue, purples and stuff. And I said, God, I started breaking down again. If he really knew me, he would know I like those flowers. Right? So I leave Walmart. I go to my client's office to go pick up some stuff. It was like a 3-story type building. And so I was at the very top floor and I'm dealing with the client, getting the stuff together. And all of a sudden there's a call upstairs to the lady whose office I was in at the time. And it was a buzz and it said, hey, is Show up there? Because they call me Showgirl too. So is Show up there in your office? Yeah, she's here. And she said, okay, so Jimmy's downstairs. He wants to see her. And I'm like, why is he following me? He need to be going somewhere else doing something, right? I'm already still emotional, right? So then he comes upstairs, 3 floors. He had those flowers that I saw in Walmart.
Wow.
Saved.
Wow.
That was a strategy. God says, I meet your needs. See, something we be putting our trust, listen. And see, we got to work this thing. God will meet you, and you got to be okay with God meeting your need, whether he use your husband or somebody else. But that's the place we at. We want it the way we want it. We don't want God to be God. He walked in there with those same flowers I saw, and he's not saved. See, that let me know God is in control. All I got to do is stay before God.
Yes.
Stay before. Wow. He didn't make me, man, I'm telling you, that shifted something in me. And that was strategy number 3. Totally go to God. Totally go to him.
Wow, that's so good. Wow, I'm just like overwhelmed myself. Listen to, I'm so excited. I'm hanging on by that thread. Tell us some more strategies on what happened from there.
Well, what ended up happening was I was able to put my guards down at that point. God began to reveal to me who my husband is and what's going. He began to reveal to me and give me compassion for my husband because he was lost. Instead of me saying, I just got to get out of this, got to get right, because it was all about me. See, I married him for me, right? I didn't marry him. You know, a lot of people marry people for different reasons, right? And a lot of times women with children, because we did blend, because I already had my daughter from high school, because I got pregnant at 15. And then I was 4 months pregnant with my son when I met him. Okay. So I just wanted a man who could just help me work and pay bills, really. I mean, if I be honest, you know, I'm from the hood, I'm from the projects in Naples, and most people say that was manicured project, but it was a project, okay? So, but the guy began to show me that he had a soul just as well as I had a soul. Mm-hmm. And if I can have compassion on others and want them to get to know who Christ is, how would I approach them? What would that look like? And so the strategy was, see him as, and I know it may sound crazy, but his ways are not our ways. Mm-hmm. See him as a brother in Christ.
Right.
See him as a soul. And see him as a king. And that was hard. But God had to teach me. He had to teach me. So guess what? After that, changes started happening. They started happening before my eyes, and my husband was not saved. So the last 7 years of my marriage, although my husband was not saved, I enjoyed every moment.
Wow.
I enjoyed it.
So he started coming home and being faithful and being a good husband.
Hold up. This is what he would do. He still was doing the stuff, but there was a level, something shifted in him to say, oh, something done changed. He would wake up on Sunday morning and say, you going to church today? Yeah, I'm going. All right, I think I'm going to come. Then he would be like, hey, the boys, they want to go out tonight. Is it okay? Can I go with them? You asking me? Oh, my God. I'm like, yeah, you can go. He's like, I'll be home early, baby. I'm like, okay. But what I started seeing, that I had every right to enjoy my husband. I had every right to enjoy my life, that I had connected and committed to God. And so I began to fight for what I wanted. I began to say the enemy couldn't have him. I began to say, oh, no, you will not touch. Because, see, the enemy wants you to feel like he's the one you're fighting. It's not him. And that's hard. That's hard. when you're just coming into the faith and you don't know much and you just got converted. That was hard for me.
Right.
But after a while,
Wow.
when I built that close relationship with God, I no longer focused on my husband. I said, God, put me in position to work in cooperation with your plan for his life.
Wow.
His life. We have the ability to build kings, y'all. To
That is
build.
so true. Wow. And I talk about in marriage ministry again when I'm doing marriage ministry, and I talk to the women about making your spouse feel like the king of the castle. Although he may not deserve it, you may not think he deserves it. He may not have acted like the king, but when you start treating him like the king, he'll start acting like he's in that place of a king. And
Well,
that's
he
what
was still
he's
mad.
looking out for your queen. He's looking
Yeah.
out for your, the kids. And so it puts him to a position to where, although you may not know what you're doing at the time, but God is in the midst of it, and God is working that thing out in the background. And so that means that even like, with your friends or family who knew what was going on and they're, mad at him or whatever, you still treat that man like the king. And then you require everybody else around you to do the same. They can't disrespect him because they don't feel like, he deserves the respect. That's not what it's all about. It's about, this is what God showed me I need to do. And you did what God showed you you needed to do. And that's helping somebody who's watching today. This is helping. It's absolutely helping. So after, what changes, after he got saved? What were some of the changes even after he came to Christ and now you're more equally yoked? What happened?
Listen, y'all. Our whole house changed. I did praise dance. I had dance ministries. When he got saved, at that time, the church we were going to, our pastor was called to another church that was in Fort Myers. So that was like a whole 45, 50 minutes away from where we live. And so, because it would have been hard for me to leave my church, but I would have went because my husband was saved. So wherever he wanted to go, I was going to go. But we didn't have a place to worship at that time. And so he said, well, he just got saved. So he's like, what are we going to do? He said, we should start having church in the house. I said, okay. I'm like, yeah, he's a new convert. Okay. So we started having, just Sunday morning, we get up, he moved everything around. He said, now, Jaheim, you need to get on the keyboard. Jaheim said, Dad, I'm a drummer. I don't play the keys. He said, you need to get on the keys. Jaheim said, okay, Daddy. And he looked at me, he said, now, Shalonda, you need to bring the word. I said, boy, I do not preach. Like, what you talking about? He said, but you're the only one that's been here the longest, just do something. I don't know, but you need to do that. And then he said to Javen, okay, Javen, you need to be the one to pray. Javen said, Daddy, I'm telling you. And my daughter was a dancer. She has her bachelor's in the fine arts, and she went to Texas for her master's. So she's a dancer. And he said, Kara, you need to lead worship. She said, Daddy, I do not sing. It was like, let me tell you, and baby girl and Marcus, they were the ones in the audience. Okay, you do the offering, you do this. And literally, this is how we became Washington Family Ministry.
Wow. Amazing.
And then my husband began to do praise mime dance. He ain't play with God. He ain't play around God. He ain't play with church. He ain't play around it. He didn't play in cold turkey. When I tell you, when I got saved, sometimes I'm like, okay, Lord, where's the line at? Can I go to the club? Can I, what can I, no, cold turkey. He was calling the, hey, don't call me. I don't found Jesus. And they like, yeah, man, everybody know. No, I'm serious. And he started naming the women. I ain't coming, and I ain't going to the liquor store with you, so don't call me. I mean, in my face, calling them. Mine made up.
Wow. Look at God.
But then I had to make an adjustment. Because see, we pray for stuff. And then I had to remember, this ain't the same man. My responses had to change.
You're right.
The things that I had to take control of and do that the enemy was beating me up about after he got saved, because, this stuff had to transition. So it's like, he the man, you not, and then the Lord took me to the word again. I went to the beach and it showed me, I want to say her name. It's just escaped me. The one where she went to King David and told him, please do not. She went around her husband fell asleep. And David said, the Holy Spirit brought you here.
Right.
She said, please don't kill my family because my husband's a fool. See, God will allow you to sustain because there's some blessings that got to come through you until that man gets to the place where God will be able to do what he needs to do with him. But there's a way to do it. There's time. I had to have the Holy Spirit to do it.
Wow, that is so good. And then, I love how you say how now what's happening now in your life. And we're going to go back to go back to a couple more tips before we go. But what's happening now in your life with your husband?
Well, we are a full-fledged ministry that we can't even explain. It's full of young people. I mean, young people. Lives are changing. We're changing not just generations, but a culture. Everyone in our church, majority, the only ones that I think are American are me, my husband, and Tiana, who's a praise leader. Other than that, it's Haitians, Hispanics. And I'm telling you, they are growing. They're eating meat. These are young people.
Wow.
And my husband is preaching the gospel.
Wow. He's a preacher now. And that's something you never thought that was going to happen, did you?
Mm-hmm.
You were trying to get out.
Yes, get me out of here. Yeah. I wasn't going to be able to see it because I was trying to get out.
Amazing.
Yes.
And in your business is flourishing.
The business is flourishing. We have 8 employees. We go from Naples, Florida, all the way to Tampa area. I have absorbed another permit service in the Bradenton, Tampa area that is exclusively works for us. We've got corporate accounts. I have my own software that I've built. I'm speaking, at realtors events and attorneys events about what I do, how I do it. Just opportunities like crazy. The biggest thing I want to tell women is find the good thing in your husband. Yeah. Follow God, because the enemy will have you looking at everything negative.
Right.
My husband has never called me out my name. He's never cursed me out. He was in the world. He never brought his alcohol or his weed or his cocaine in my house. He respected me enough for that. Our children. He just was lost. When he talks about his part of it, he talks about, and I remember that he said, babe, you never saw me look in the mirror. I said, he said, because I didn't like me. Women, we're not the only ones that go through identity issues. If you want a perfect man, then deal with that stuff before you get married. Yes. But if you're not dealing with that beforehand, you gotta be ready to roll. You gotta be ready to roll and fight for what's yours. Fully fight for it.
Right. And we talked about even on the first part 1 of the broadcast, how, it would have been so easy. The enemy, I'm sure the enemy was bringing fine brothers doing,
doing in the church.
And they're in the business, and they're polished, and they're everything
I desired. It was right there in front of me.
Yeah. And so it would have been easy for you to say, you know what, I'm giving up on this and I'm going to that. But that wasn't God's plan for your life. And so many times that women miss the mark because they believe the lies of the enemy instead of believing what God has for them is for them. And so I love that. So I want to even really quick, gosh, our time is ticking again so fast. I want to talk about tips for our single women, the single women who are watching this show right now. Give them some tips on trying to make sure that you are equally yoked when you do get married.
The first thing I would say, because I have kids and I have children, I have 2 girls and 2 boys. And I first tell them, first of all, you have to get a vision on what it is that God has for you, so that when you see it or when it approaches you, and you can delete the things that are not. I think that's the biggest thing. Because as women, when we feel like we're supposed to be married or single, we feel like our life is not complete unless we're connected to someone. We forget the fact that we got to figure out the nature of the relationships, because as the opposite sex does not mean that's your husband. You have to seek God and say, God, I need for you to know. And it's mind blowing how we will marry, especially if we already got kids, and we forget that this man I'm marrying is going to marry my children too.
Wow. That is
And
so
then we'll
good.
say, I done married you, but you can't correct my children now. Wait up, hold up. You got to think about the ramifications of all of that. Right. So that's the first thing. Invite God into that space. You got to be vulnerable. Into the process. That's
so
number
true.
one.
And then even I like the and before you go on, I like even to say to single women that, you know, make sure that you guys have the same goals. I mean, you may be a businesswoman and you may be an entrepreneur, you may be, you know, a visionary, and he may be just like, I just want to go to work and come back home and sit on the couch and watch TV. He may not have the dreams. Like, you may be a dreamer, you know, and you like to travel all over the world. You have dreams of going to exotic places. He just wants to go to the beach every blue moon. So those are things that even think about as well.
Definitely. And I want to piggyback even a little bit more on that, to the point where that the mindset is you get tired of waiting, or you're not, I don't even want to say waiting, right? Because God knows the time and he knows when you're going to be ready, right? And so think about this. If the person that God has for you, he wants to connect you with this person, and you're not even physically, emotionally ready, and then you say, well, it's taking too long, so having a piece of man is better than having no man at all. That very thing that this man can't even dream with you, don't dream with you, will be the very thing that you say, what's wrong with him? I don't want this. Get me out of this, right? We're not thinking about what that looks like. God has to give that to you. I mean, all of this saying, oh, when he go to church, he say, you know, he could talk scriptures, he could do all this. No. Is he walking it? Is he walking back it? And watch. Listen, what the Bible said when you picking leaders in the church, you look out among you and see who already leading. He need to be already doing some stuff.
That's so true. Now, even in our last couple of minutes, will you take about a minute to encourage the women who were going through what you went through? Just encourage them to hang in there.
Listen, the biggest thing is get around people who are for your marriage, not on your side, not on his side. I was blessed. My pastor and them, every time my husband would come to church and we could have just been arguing, they always from the pulpit say, hey, Brother Jimmy, thank you for allowing your wife, letting us borrow your wife for this Sunday. They addressed him the proper way. Get around people that can keep you encouraged. Focus on what is good, not what is bad, because a lot of that is emotion. Make a decision to take all your emotions to God, because wherever your husband is right now, he can't handle it. He can't handle it. He can't meet you there. But God can, and God can do a work in you and in him at the same time. Be encouraged. Ask God. Be vulnerable. Stay vulnerable before him. Don't get embarrassed and ashamed. If you can spill the Kool-Aid, the tea to anybody, it's God. And when you leave, he's going to be giving you a vision. He's going to give you strategy. I promise you, he will not leave you without a strategy after you leave from his presence.
Wow, that is so good. I know someone around the world was blessed by your testimony. Thank you again for being so vulnerable and just so transparent with the viewers, and just asking everybody to make sure to go to your pages. I did not turn the ticker back on, so let me get it back on real quick. I missed the ticker. I was so excited I missed the ticker. But your information is on there. Make sure to go to her pages and to like her pages, to follow her on social media. If you're having a conference, please invite her to your conference. Not only is she an amazing entrepreneur, businesswoman, she is a marriage ministry, singles ministry. Your singles ministry needs to hear from this woman. And so, and then to even motivational speaking. So, you know, whatever the need is in your church or organization, please call her. And I know that you'll be blessed. Thank you, Shalonda Washington. I appreciate you. And I want to give a shout out to our girl Tekoa, Pastor Tekoa, for introducing us. And so those kingdom connections, right?
Yes.
So yes, praying God's blessings over your business, your life. your marriage, your family. And I just know that God has so much in store for you. And I'm just so looking forward to even our partnership, that we'll be doing a lot more things together. So thank you guys for coming for this part 2, my first part 2 of Conversations with Dr. Harriet right here on the Power Network. Remember, today only happens once, so make it amazing. Have an amazing day. Thank you all. Thank you again. I appreciate you.